Hello and welcome to another episode of The Bookie and the Beano, where we discuss the debits and credits of being an accountant or bookkeeper in the digital world we operate in today. I'm Kane Munro, owner of Active Outsourcing and Accountancy Online, and with me is Diane Lucas, superstar bookkeeper, consultant and owner of Direct Management. Di, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you, Kane. How are you?
I am doing very well. We're in the lead up to QuickBooks Connect this year, which is a conference in Melbourne on the 30th and 31st of May. You're talking at the event.
I'm talking at the event, so are you.
I am indeed. So I thought today we'd discuss, the process behind, preparing for public speaking engagement, because public speaking and presenting to, the general public or even anyone's scary for a lot of people, and I know it would still be scary for me. I'm assuming it's still scary for you. So I just thought we'd have a chat today about how we approach it, how we prepare for it, and how we may have evolved over the years.
And why we do it.
Exactly, why we do it. So why do you do it, Di?
Why do I do it? It's called give back, Kane.
It is. It's givers and takers in life, isn't there? And you're a giver.
I hope so. I am a giver.
Yeah, so you do this to give back to other bookkeepers, accountants, other professionals who may learn from some of your knowledge.
Exactly, it's sharing knowledge. After years and years of being in the industry and building up a skill base to a certain level, and absolutely, I want to give it back. I want to share that knowledge. Yeah,
I'm much the same. I guess I've been through the ringer as an accountant over the best part of 20 years now. So I started in corporate tax, so doing tax consulting. Then moved into what was really just a churning superannuation fund role, did some outsourcing stuff. So I've done a lot of things. I even worked in the mailroom at a firm for a while there when I was on school holidays and things like that. So I've done a lot of weird, crazy stuff across accountancy firms and different sizes of accounting firms. So
and you're still weird and crazy.
I'm still weird and crazy, that's true. I often got told by people, I don't know why you're an accountant, and I guess I questioned myself about that at various times in my career. So I guess part of the reason I do this is to share some of the stories, and whatever I do is always story-based because I don't have a lot of technical expertise. Just sharing some of my stories.
Storytelling is a great asset.
Well, apparently it is these days with social media and all those hashtaggy cool things. But yeah, getting up on stage is hard, but sharing your experiences sometimes makes it easier as well.
Well, that's it. Sharing your knowledge through the art of storytelling is a great way to actually approach public speaking.
Yeah, and when did you first do your first bit of public speaking, on stage? As a graduate accountant, we used to have to present on a sort of a monthly basis on something tax-based.
Oh, really? So they tried prepping you to be experienced in that regard?
Yeah, because it was all around getting you comfortable talking in front of clients. So you'd sit down and you'd prepare about a piece of tax legislation and present to the partners and the managers and the assistant managers.
Exciting.
Oh, yeah, who then kind of drill you on stuff. So it's like it's almost like show and tell. I've learnt this bit of legislation or this thing. I have to kind of share that and everyone to pick up bits and pieces from it. So they got you in really early. And my background, my dad's a carpenter and mum's she's just a mum. So I had no experience of doing this, had no experience of this at university or high school presenting. And you basically get thrown into a professional environment to present on a professional thing to people who are professionals and invariably went to better schools, in inverted commas, than me. It was really confronting. I'd be a jangle of nerves and stutters.
No, absolutely. And my first experience was when I was 18 and I was delivering talks to Rotary in Japanese.
What? In Japanese? How did that come about?
Well, I was an exchange student for 12 months, and so obviously I had to learn how to speak the language, and as part of that, I also had to learn how to read the language. So it wasn't actually all the kanji, but in hiragana, which is the phonetic style of writing. And so all my speeches I wrote with conjunction with a teacher, and it was all delivered in Japanese.
Wow! Sometimes when I'm on stage, I feel like I'm talking Japanese when the words get muddled up, so I can kind of half understand that. But
that's yeah. So imagine starting that sort of journey when you've been somewhere for 3 months, you can barely speak the language, and you're sort of required to get up in front of 100, 200, or in some schools I presented at 1,000 kids.
Wow!
And then by the end of 12 months, I was actually delivering speeches without really having to refer to my notes.
That's next level, like learning to, give a speech in a completely different language. I guess there's some comfort in that maybe not everyone's understanding what you're saying anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
But to be doing that from age 18, like obviously you seem really comfortable on stage now because you've been doing it for a number of years.
And then there was a hiatus for 30 years. Yeah, give me that.
Yeah, fair.
And then back into it a little bit. But no, it is the training ground for that. There is no training ground. It's just get up and do it, isn't it? It's just you've just got to do it.
Yeah.
And if you. I don't know if you remember back to Get Connected last year. I was running to the loo every 10 minutes prior to having to get up on stage. So that still happens.
I need to be away from everyone for a good sort of 10 or 15 minutes before I do anything. I can't just go from
centering yourself. Yeah,
I do actually. Actually, beforehand, I'll generally take 5 or 10 minutes to do. I don't call it meditation. It's more of a breathing exercise to try to calm
Slow
the nerves.
Heart rate.
Yeah, and the sweaty palms and stuff. I try not to shake anyone's hand before these sessions because I invariably will have a sweaty palm and kind of nerves will be jangling around. So it's not an easy thing to do, and these things still happen after probably doing this for the best part of 15 years now. So
I think there'd be a rare person who doesn't get nerves prior to a presentation. Doesn't matter how experienced you are. So I think it's a good thing. It gives you that adrenaline rush as well, and it gives you that impetus to get up on stage and give it your best.
Yeah, you're right. Afterwards you feel great. Beforehand you feel terrible. Afterwards you feel great. And I guess part of it as well, nobody really wants you to fail up there, or generally they shouldn't want you to fail up, and there's some jerks in the audience. So everyone wants you to do well. Everyone wants to learn from what you're talking about. So if you are approached to do any sort of public speaking, I do encourage anyone to sort of take up that opportunity. The other part of it will be preparing beforehand, but people want you to do well. They don't want you to fail, so have a crack at it.
That's right. And there's going back again. So one of the networking groups I was affiliated with going back when in my Stronger Reckon days. We got together once every quarter, and I also ended up running a few of their conferences in the back early, whenever it was. Yeah. But to have to prepare for those, and as you said, people don't want you to fail. So that sort of environment where you're speaking in amongst peers and things, people want you to be successful. It's the best environment to actually start doing this sort of thing in, because you are amongst peers and people want you to be successful, and I said jerks. But it's quite a protected environment to begin speaking in, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And QuickBooks Connect, as I mentioned, is coming up at the end of May. Have you started putting together you obviously would have put together your slides now, but what's your preparation process to actually get a slide deck prepared, know what you're going to talk about? Do you have a sort of process which works for you to make sure that once you go on stage, you got an hour at QuickBooks Connect, which is a long time, that you have enough content and enough information, enough support to kind of assist you through an hour?
Well, that's right. So yeah, in preparing for a topic of any sort of topic, there is a hell of a lot of preparation required. I mean, if you're talking for an hour, depending of course on what the topic is and how knowledgeable you are about the topic, but 10 hours of preparation is probably not an unreasonable estimate.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that. It may even be more.
Maybe, exactly, depending on what it is. I mean, I've probably prepared for a topic 20 to 30 hours.
Yep.
And that's not even practice time. That's actually, really trying to understand what you're trying to say, and how the flow of that works, and and just really, I guess, it's almost like an inner reflection, So if you're talking about product-based presentations, that's a different thing. But if you're talking, I guess, thought leader type presentations, then that's a little bit different, because you are doing inner reflection and you're trying to share some concepts that you're probably only coming to terms with yourself. And to actually do that publicly is a lot of reflection required, and then how to actually get that out to an audience in a manner that is understandable as well. So yeah, I absolutely, presentations take a shitload of time.
They do, and for all the bookies and beanos out there, Diane is actually nominated for Thought Leader of the Year this year at the Accountants Daily Awards, which are coming up towards the end of may as well. So she is approached to do a lot of thought leadership work. So that does, as you mentioned, it does take a lot more time when you something more conceptual than, I guess, something which is more technical based.
So the technical stuff, what's your approach on that?
Well, I'm not very good at technical stuff, so I need a lot of support when it comes to technical things. So if I'm a bit better at the airy-fairy sort of thought leadership stuff in that I can link stories back to concepts, where if I need technical information and to do something technical, that takes me a much longer time, and I'm never as comfortable presenting that. So I find that much more difficult, where a lot of people find that a bit easier because they can lean on something, where I find leaning on something harder.
That's interesting. So do you start? I use the term straw man. So a straw man is getting that structure of what you're going to be talking about bedded down with pen paper. Do you start with that sort of thing? Yeah,
I generally start with the beginning, so the first sort of 3 minutes and an ending, the last sort of 3 minutes, because they're generally what most people remember. You'll get people on board in those first 3 minutes on, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about. I'll generally have some kind of story or some sort of concept that I'll introduce at that point and then touch on throughout a talk, be it technical or non-technical, and then the wrap-up. So I'll usually start with the top and the tail, and they're the really important parts, and then fill out the middle bit based on dot points, which I want to cover. And roughly 2 or 3 minutes per dot point, depending on how long the talk goes for and how in-depth I need to go.
So what do you think about the content then? Death by slideshow, or how does that all work? I'm
the complete opposite. I'll generally have pictures and images which will jog a memory for me, so I won't have dot points which I'll refer to a lot of the time. Technical, maybe there'll be a few more dot points because you really need to nail some things, but I'll try to link, I guess, pictures and images to something that I want to talk about.
And how hard is it to find images that really capture what you want to say?
Oh, it is difficult. I remember one of the times when I was back at my old accounting firm, and one of the partners was presenting, and he had a Looney Tunes cartoon in there for Wiley Fox, and I remember all the millennial kids going, what the flip is this cartoon? So I think you have to approach it and have the right images for your audience. You're right, that is difficult to find, and there's copyright issues and things like that.
And sometimes you have to pay for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're presenting in a public forum and people may, I guess, tweet things out, or if it's being recorded, then you have to be even more careful about what you use. So generally I'll take something that I like and give it to somebody on a Fiverr or on an Upwork to alter it, so that way I own the image, or I have some sort of copyright over it, so then I can use it without fear of somebody going, you can't use that, that's mine.
How would you alter something?
You can put different filters over it. You can cut it, paste it. You can just go, listen, replicate it. Much like our Book in the Beano logo. I'm not really Superman, and Di's, well, she is Wonder Woman in the bookkeeping sphere, but...
Oh, no, you're Superman too, Kane.
So, yeah, you can, I guess, borrow images and alter them, and then you can kind of have more ownership over them.
Right. Oh, that's a good point. Absolutely. But the actual the content creation and things, as we said, it's all rather time consuming, and pulling together the deck and just even the technical aspects of making that presentation look professional.
Yeah, and that's not even taking into account the preparation and the practice of actually doing the talk as well. Like, you can't just prepare your slide deck and kind of prepare a few words on a page and then just go, wing it up on stage.
I've done that before.
Yeah, I've done it before. It generally doesn't end up with a great result. It can, but generally won't.
Ideally, you want to have the content sort of embedded in your brain, but again, though, depending on what you're talking about, sometimes there's some salient points that you actually, feel that you have to manage to get across. And if you're not 100% comfortable with that topic, it's hard to remember those bits and pieces.
Oh, I forget stuff all the time when I'm talking. Like, I'll have in my head, this is my sort of 30 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour worth of stuff I'm going to talk about. But I know I'll forget slabs. And it's just important to go, okay, if I miss that slab, I need to move on to the next thing that I remember, not to kind of pause and really go, I have to restart that bit. You just have to kind of at least remember the next bit. So you just have to, this is part of my preparation, understanding the flow of what I'm going to talk about. So if I miss a slab, I can always loop back to it, but I don't just kind of freeze, because when you freeze, that's a difficult bit to overcome.
No, that's true too. What about technical challenges? Like my presentation at QBC is going to be initial sort of slide presentation, does a bit of an intro, and then I go live into product.
I think you'll be okay with QBC because there'll be a professional audio-visual person there, so they can help facilitate that the interface between the two. I remember I did a presentation at the Accountants Business Expo the first year. It was operational. It was on being able to run your firm via phone, which we legitimately do. And I said to them beforehand, okay, this is my phone. I'm going to do my entire presentation from my phone, illustrating it from my phone. Will this be okay? Yep, not a problem. Didn't work. So the first 10 minutes was the audio-visual guy.
And it was only a 20-minute session.
20-minute session. He's trying to fix this stuff, and I'm just talking to nothing. I can't show my phone, which was a lot of my presentation. So, again, you have to kind of adapt on the fly and kind of, talk about other things where, your technical aspect or, any audio-visual stuff you're going to rely on doesn't exist. So, they kind of ruined it a bit. They've ruined the experience, but at the same time, I think people still took something valuable away from the talk.
Yeah. There's always, you need to have a plan B, don't you?
Yeah, and a C and a D. Because something invariably is going to go wrong. But again, preparation will help you overcome something which may go wrong. And then practicing the presentation, again, will kind of pick up bits which don't work, which you may need to adapt before you actually get up there and present.
And then the other part is we've sort of mentioned, obviously, that you talk about something that you're comfortable with, but being natural. You don't get up on stage and try to put a persona on. You get up on stage and be yourself.
Yeah, you have to. I think it's an Oasis song. You can't be anybody else. So just be yourself. So it is really important that you're authentic because people will at least, even if you kind of muck something up, they'll appreciate you as a person. Yeah, it's endearing. Yeah.
And the same with the storytelling. I've had people crying at my presentations.
Wow, good. You said I'm a good storyteller. Wow,
and that's it's empathy. It's sharing a tale, and people can relate to it. So even if it's a technical talk. I just find too that as much as I want to share there's some wonderful aspects on how to do some incredible bookkeeping things, and as exciting as they are, I do have to remember that not everyone has that same level of knowledge, and to use words and remember the audience, and to present it in a way that's approachable and relatable. That's another thing to remember.
Yeah, and part of that is the practicing of it as well before you go on stage, practicing it. How many times would you practice your talk before you go on stage for a QuickBooks Connect?
Crickets.
Crickets? Not at all. You just go up and just bang it out.
Crickets.
Wow, that's amazing. I've seen you present. And
I'm blushing now.
Yeah, well, it's not at all. No. Crickets.
Yep.
Wow, that's fantastic. So do go along to QuickBooks Connect this year and listen to Di just go up on stage and just bang out our presentation. That's amazing. I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, as I said, it depends on the topic that you're talking about. If you're fully confident in presenting it, then I'm very good at winging.
Well, maybe this is my issue, is I don't have the confidence to do that because it's not something which is, I'm not a public speaker. Like my dad and my mum, like I mentioned before, my dad's a carpenter, my mum's housewife, and I remember at my sister's wedding, my dad was stuttering and slurring and stuff, and I was literally standing underneath him he had the microphone. I just kind of pushed the microphone up under his mouth a bit more because nobody could hear him as well. So
that's right.
It's not something which I've been blessed with. So I've had to work on it from sort of...
exactly, but that's what I'm saying, that in that sort of situation, the topic was something I was very comfortable with, but earlier this year I had to do a presentation to through a client of mine, actually, and again it was something that I spoke about, which was more conceptual, and I really wasn't given much preparation time, and certainly wasn't enough preparation time that allowed me to really absorb what I wanted to do. So I did present that with my notes in hand, and I had to use my notes in order to make sure that I hit home with those points. But my slide deck, the images behind what I was saying, really pushed my talk as well. So even though I was, I hadn't had that preparation, I had to refer back to my notes, I still got, a good feedback from that presentation. So, it's one of those things that, practice makes perfect at the end of the day. But again, the other side of it too is, one of the reasons, I guess, that I'm not really that big on banging the presentation side of it and practicing is because I want that naturalness to come through. I want that vulnerability to come through.
That makes a lot of sense. You touched on that before, it's that authenticity. What I will do beforehand is I'll generally record it. So I'll try to write it down, what I'm broadly going to say, especially if it's conceptual, thought leadery stuff. I'll generally write it down, read it out once and record that, and then I can listen to it. So I might go to the gym, or I might go for a run, I might go for a walk and just listen to it. So that way, hopefully by osmosis or just
you suck it in,
or dumb luck, it's coming through. So yeah. I do that.
And how long does it take to actually type what you're going to say? I mean, that just takes a long time, doesn't it?
Well, the editing process is the issue more than anything, because if I'm speaking for an hour, I'll roughly about 70 words a minute if I've had not too much caffeine on the day, because if you have caffeine, it'll just go super fast. That's another really good tip, is try not to have a coffee before you present. Just try to actually just go coffeeless, and then, because that will artificially pump your heart rate up anyway. So without coffee, you might not get quite as nervous, or your heartbeat won't be going like completely mental. But I generally say it's about 70-ish words a minute. So if I'm speaking for an hour, I just multiply that out by how long I want to talk to for that. And I will obviously always leave question time.
And you said you're not very technical. I mean, that's a highly technical approach.
It's a technical approach to a non-technical topic.
My approach is actually quite different to that. I have something to say, and I will write the content accordingly, and then I'll go, I wonder if that's actually going to fill the time, or I wonder if that's enough, or too much, whatever. I don't.
I think it always fills the time, though. No matter how long you get, your content always fills the time, because you always stumble across something while you're talking which you might take a little bit of a fork in the road towards.
Yeah, that's right too, and that's based on observation from the audience too. Yeah. Like I think that's one of the great things about actually doing live presentations as opposed to webcasts is you're getting audience feedback, and or you're getting interjection. I think it's great when the audience actually sort of throws in a comment or a question. I mean, yes, it can throw you off track and take you on a different tangent, but sometimes that just becomes some of the most fulfilling type excursions.
Yeah, you're right. You mentioned a tangent there. Now, the advice that people always say when you watch a TV show and someone's going to do some public speaking is, picture the audience naked. Do you actually do that?
No.
No, it's usually accountants and bookkeepers. That's the last thing. That would definitely put me off. So
I've never quite understood what you're supposed to achieve from that, other than the fact that we're all human.
I think that must be it, but humans also wear clothes. So just picture them in their clothes sitting in their seats, I think. So, well, it is. We have completely different approaches to how we speak publicly.
It is. I'm surprised at how different that is, actually.
But that's the important thing to note as well. For anyone out there listening, it doesn't matter how you prepare or how you practice or what you do. The important thing is you do what is comfortable and what makes you comfortable to speak in public. And the second part is just have a go. If you're asked to do it, have a go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Have a go at it. It's actually really fulfilling and scares the pants off you, and always does. But just have fun with it too.
Well, Bookie and the Beano will be live at this year's QuickBooks Connect, as it will be there interviewing people and talking to vendors.
And come up and say hello to us.
Absolutely, but we're both speaking there as well. So it's in Melbourne on the 30th and 31st of May. It's a fantastic event, almost sold out, small allocation of tickets left. So register at au.quickbooksconnect.com. Use the code QBC19Kane to get 40% off, or
QBC19Diane
to get 40% off as well. That's all for today's episode of Bookie and the Beano. Do subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And while you're there, leave a review and also share us with your network of accountants and bookkeepers. We'll be back soon with another episode. So until then, stay accurate.
And bye.